Chosen one, God is speaking something to you today, and it is not what you expect. The financial shift is real. The provision is close. The harvest you have been waiting for, the one you held on to in the dark, the one you prayed over when nothing made sense, that harvest is at the threshold right now. God sees it. And somewhere, deep in your spirit, you sense it too. Something is moving. Something is changing. Something is close, in a way it has never been before. But before it arrives, God has one instruction. One ancient, quietly powerful instruction that most chosen ones have never received before their greatest breakthrough. When the money comes, tell no one, not your closest friend, not your family, not the person who has prayed with you through every hard season. Silence. Not forever, but for now. Because what has not yet been established cannot survive unlimited exposure. And the window between promise and full manifestation is more fragile than your excitement remembers. This is not superstition. This is not fear. This is the same instruction God gave to Joseph, to David, to Esther. Every one of them carried the miracle quietly before they ever carried it publicly. And every single one of them received more than they asked for because of it. Stay with me. Because the surprise God has prepared for you is not what you think it is. Before we go deeper, I want to tell you something important. If you stay until the end of this message, you are going to receive 3 things that most people never put together in one place. The first is the real reason your breakthroughs have dissolved before, and it is not what you have been blaming yourself for. The second is a pattern hidden inside Scripture that explains why God always moves through silence before he moves through celebration. And the third, the one most people are completely unprepared for, is the actual surprise. The thing God is doing in this season that has almost nothing to do with money and everything to do with who you are becoming. So stay here. Do not leave early. What comes at the end will change how you receive everything from this point forward. Now, let us begin. There is a moment that almost every chosen one knows. You felt something shift. A number changed in your account, or a door opened that had been closed for a long time, or an opportunity arrived that felt finally like God had heard every prayer you whispered when no one else was awake. And you felt it rising in your chest, that feeling of excitement and relief and gratitude all at once. And then, because you were human and you were happy, you told someone. Maybe it was a phone call. Maybe it was a text. Maybe it was just mentioning it at dinner because the feeling was too big to hold alone. You shared it with someone who loves you, someone who means well, someone you trusted completely. And then something happened. It was subtle. A comment was made that seemed small but landed wrong. Or the energy in the room shifted in a way you could not quite name. Or the person you told was supportive on the surface, but something in their eyes was off. And slowly, without dramatic explanation, the thing you thought was finally yours began to dissolve. The door closed again. The opportunity slipped. The number went back to where it was. You told yourself it was coincidence. You told yourself you were overthinking. But deep in your spirit, you knew. You spoke too soon. I am not here to shame you for that. I want you to hear me clearly. What happened was not your fault. You were simply never given the strategy. No one taught you what happens energetically and psychologically when a breakthrough is announced before it has fully rooted. No one explained to you that the gap between God releases and the world receives is a sacred window, and that window has rules. Here is what the research is beginning to confirm, and what Scripture has known for thousands of years. When we verbalize a goal or a breakthrough before it has fully established itself in our lives, something happens in the brain. The simple act of sharing it, receiving someone's reaction, their congratulations or their doubt, creates a social experience that the brain registers as partial completion. The mission feels, in some small way, already done. And so the inner drive, the spiritual urgency, the focused attention that was protecting and building the thing, it softens, it relaxes. Before the harvest is in your hands, something in you believes it already is. This is not weakness. This is how the human brain works. And the enemy knows exactly how to use it. But there is more than the psychology. There is something happening in the invisible world around your breakthrough that most people have never been taught to see. Because the people around you, the ones you love, the ones who genuinely want good things for you, they are not neutral forces. Every person carries a frequency. And not everyone's frequency is aligned with what God is releasing into your life right now. Think about this carefully, because I am not saying the people in your life are bad. I am saying something more specific than that. A person can love you deeply and still carry doubt about what is possible for you. A person can mean you nothing but good and still have a quiet, almost unconscious resistance to seeing you rise, not from malice, but from their own unresolved fears about what your elevation means for them. When you share a breakthrough with someone whose frequency is carrying that kind of weight, what flows back into you is not nothing. It touches the miracle before it is ready. Joseph understood this, not at first, but eventually. He was 17 years old when the dream came. He saw it clearly, the sun and the moon and 11 stars bowing down. And instead of holding it, instead of letting it root in silence, he announced it. And the people he announced it to were the exact wrong people at the exact wrong time. His brothers heard the dream and something dark rose up in them, not because they were monsters, but because they were human, and the dream touched their own insecurities about who they were. Joseph ended up in a pit, then in a prison. 13 years of silence. But here is what you need to understand about those 13 years. That was not punishment. That was preparation. That was God building in Joseph the exact character he would need to manage not just his own household, but the provision of an entire empire. Joseph went into that silence as a boy who announced his dreams too soon. He came out of it as a man who could hold the weight of a nation. The silence was not the setback. The silence was the school. Esther knew something about this too. She lived inside the palace for an entire season and revealed nothing about who she was. Not her heritage, not her identity, not the calling she carried. Mordecai had told her clearly, "Do not speak of it yet." And she obeyed, not out of fear, but out of wisdom, because she understood that the right moment matters as much as the right message. When Esther finally spoke, she spoke at a banquet she had prepared, at a time she had chosen, with words she had carefully held inside for an entire season. And what she said in that moment saved an entire people. The miracle survived because she had learned to hold it. The timing worked because she had not rushed it. This is the pattern. This is the ancient strategy that God gives to every chosen one before their greatest breakthrough. Move in silence until the miracle is strong enough to survive the light. Now let me tell you something that might surprise you, because it surprised me the first time I encountered it. What I have just described has a biological explanation. Scientists who study the brain have begun to map what actually happens inside the mind of someone who is on the verge of a major breakthrough. And one of the most consistent findings is this: the people who receive extraordinary results and hold them, not just receive them temporarily, but actually sustain them, they all share a particular brain state. A particular frequency that neuroscientists call gamma. Gamma is not a mystical word. It is a measurable brainwave, one of the fastest the brain produces. And what researchers have discovered is that gamma is the state of direct knowing. The state of intuition so strong it feels like instruction. The state where synchronicities start to multiply, where the right person shows up at the right moment, where the right door opens at the exact time you arrive. Some scientists call it peak cognitive function. Some spiritual traditions call it God frequency. Whatever name you give it, the experience is the same. You feel aligned, clear, guided, and protected. Children under the age of 7 have gamma naturally. Watch a young child learning. They absorb everything instantly. They trust their own instincts completely. They do not second-guess the feeling that something is right. They live in a state of open receiving, And then something begins to happen around age 7. The environment starts to press in. Other people's opinions start to matter. The need for approval begins to override the inner knowing. And slowly, steadily, gamma begins to dim. Researchers call this the decline effect. And most adults walk through their entire lives with this frequency suppressed without ever knowing what they lost. Here is where this connects directly to what we have been talking about. When a chosen one announces a breakthrough prematurely, when they expose the miracle to the wrong frequency, before it has rooted, what happens is not just social, it is neurological. The anxiety that follows, the subtle doubt, the noise of other people's reactions flooding in, all of it creates a stress response that actively suppresses gamma. The very brainwave you need to navigate the breakthrough gets quieted by the noise of premature announcement. This is why God says, tell no one, not to be secretive, not to be isolated. But because your gamma, your God-given receiving frequency, needs protection in the early hours of a season change. Now, I want to share something with you that I have found genuinely useful in this specific area, not as a replacement for faith, because nothing replaces faith, but as a support for what you are already building. There are scientists who have spent decades researching exactly this, why some people maintain this gamma frequency under pressure while most cannot, and whether it is possible to restore it intentionally. A neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake, with over 3 decades of research drawing from institutions like MIT, Harvard, and Princeton, developed something specific from that body of work. A 7-minute audio track that uses what is called brain entrainment technology, sound frequencies embedded into music that guide the brain back into gamma. Not meditation, not a mantra. Just 7 minutes, headphones on, and a targeted frequency reset that the brain responds to even on the first listen. Over 18,000 people have used it. And what they report is not magic, it is clarity, focus, the return of that direct knowing that most adults have been living without for years. The sense, finally, that the inner signal is strong again. I want to be honest with you, this is a tool. It is not a guarantee of wealth, and it will not replace the work God is doing in your character. But if you are in a season where the gamma frequency has been suppressed by years of noise, and most chosen ones are, this kind of reset can be the difference between receiving what God sends and missing it because the signal was too quiet to hear. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment below. It is not available anywhere else at the price offered there, and there are counterfeit versions out there that do not carry the actual technology, so the link is what matters. But here is the thing. Even if you never use that tool, what I am about to share in the next part of this message may be the most important thing you hear this year. Because everything I have told you so far, the premature announcement, the invisible resistance, the suppressed frequency, all of that was preparation for the real surprise. And the real surprise is something God has been building in you that has almost nothing to do with money. Stay with me. It is coming. Chosen one. Everything I told you in the first part of this message was true. The premature announcement, the invisible resistance, the frequency that gets suppressed when you expose the miracle too soon, all of it is real, and all of it matters. But none of it is the surprise. I told you at the beginning that God has prepared something for you that you would not expect. And I kept that promise open on purpose, because I needed you to understand the foundation before I showed you what is sitting on top of it. Now we are here. And what I am about to share is going to reframe everything. Here is the surprise. God was never primarily protecting the money. He was forming the person. Let that settle for just a moment. Read it again inside your spirit if you need to. Because this changes everything about how you understand this season. Most chosen ones pray for wealth the way you pray for weather, hoping the conditions will shift and something good will fall from the sky. And God hears those prayers. The provision is real and the breakthrough is coming. But what most people have not been taught is this. Money that arrives before the person is ready does not stay. It cannot stay. not because God takes it back, but because a person who has not been formed to hold wealth will find ways to release it through decisions that feel right in the moment, through relationships that drain it, through patterns that were never healed. The provision arrives, and the unformed patterns consume it. And the person is left wondering why God gave it and took it away, when in reality God was never the one who released it. This is why the silence was not primarily about protecting the breakthrough from other people. The silence was a classroom, and you have been in it. Think about what happens to a person who learns to hold a secret season with faithfulness, who learns to move forward without external validation, who learns to make decisions based on inner knowing rather than public opinion, who learns to sit in the uncomfortable space between "I know it is coming" and "I cannot prove it yet" without collapsing. That person is being formed. That person is developing discernment, patience, internal authority, and the kind of quiet confidence that wealth cannot give you, the kind that has to be grown from the inside out. This is what David understood. He was anointed as king while Saul was still on the throne. Samuel poured the oil over his head, and then, do you know what happened? He went back to the field. He went back to the sheep. He did not call a press conference. He did not begin acting like a king before he was one. He returned to the wilderness and continued his work in the hidden place. And it was in that hidden place, not in the palace, not in the army, not in the public victories, that David became the kind of man who could actually lead. The anointing came first. The character came second. The throne came last. If David had rushed to the throne the moment the oil touched his head, he would have had neither the wisdom, nor the relationships, nor the spiritual depth to hold it. The wilderness was not the delay before his destiny. The wilderness was part of his destiny. And yours is too. I want to name specifically what this season of silence has been building in you, because I think you need to hear it said out loud. The first thing it has been building is discernment. The ability to look at a person, a situation, an opportunity, and know in your spirit whether it is aligned or not, without needing someone else to confirm it. This is not a skill that comes from reading books. It is a skill that comes from learning to trust your own signal over a long period of time, often under conditions where no one around you agreed with what you were sensing. You have been developing this for longer than you realize. The second thing silence has been building in you is patience with the process, not passive waiting, active, faithful endurance. The ability to keep moving forward, keep planting, keep showing up, even when the harvest is not yet visible. This kind of patience is extraordinarily rare. Most people quit 3 weeks before the breakthrough. You have not quit. That is not a small thing. The third thing this season has been building is internal authority. You are learning how to move based on what you know rather than what other people confirm. This is the foundation of every leader who has ever been given significant provision and managed it well. Not confidence that comes from others saying you are capable. Confidence that comes from you, knowing in the quiet, in the private, in the place where no audience exists, that you can do what is being asked of you. The fourth thing is the ability to receive without performance. This might be the most underestimated character quality in the entire kingdom. Most people, when wealth arrives, feel the immediate pressure to show it, explain it, justify it, or share it before it has fully settled. They perform the blessing before they have actually rested in it. Silence has been teaching you something different. How to let good things arrive and breathe before the world knows. How to say thank you in the private place before you say it publicly. That is an extraordinary capacity. And the fifth thing, perhaps the most important of all, is identity stability. You are learning who you are when no one is watching, when there is no applause, when there is no visible evidence of progress, when the only thing holding you in place is your own sense of who you know yourself to be. This is the bedrock. This is what everything else gets built on, and it can only be formed in the hidden season. Now, I want to ask you something. As you hear these things, Does any of it feel familiar? Because I believe many of you listening right now are already in the middle of these signs, and you have not recognized them for what they are. So let me name them for you. The first sign is that you have become more selective with your words, not withdrawn, not cold, but quieter in a particular way. You do not share everything with everyone the way you used to. Something in you has learned to hold certain things closer, and it does not feel like anxiety. It feels more like wisdom. The second sign is that certain relationships have grown quieter without any drama happening. No big fight, no formal ending, just a natural, peaceful distance that created space you did not even know you needed. Some people who were in your daily world 6 months ago are simply less present now. And where you expected grief, you found relief. The third sign is something shifting in your finances that you cannot fully explain yet. It is small, maybe, not dramatic. But there is a movement happening, a door that is slightly more open than it was, a number that is slightly different, a possibility that did not exist before. You noticed it. You have been holding it quietly. The fourth sign is that your discernment has gotten sharper. You sense things about people and situations faster than you used to. You know within minutes of a conversation whether something is aligned or not. You trust that knowing more than you once did. The fifth sign is an unusual protectiveness over your peace. You find yourself less willing to enter arguments, less interested in defending yourself, less pulled into other people's chaos. Not because you are indifferent, but because something in you is guarding a space that feels important to guard. The sixth sign is that synchronicities are multiplying. Conversations that arrive at exactly the right moment, numbers that show up repeatedly, a song or a word or a person appearing in a way that feels guided rather than accidental. The pattern is increasing. You are noticing things that you might have dismissed before. And the seventh sign is this: you feel the weight of something coming. You cannot name it precisely. You cannot give it a date or a dollar amount. But there is a knowing, quiet, steady, persistent, that something is near. Something is shifting in a way that is about to become visible. You feel it in the morning before you are fully awake. You feel it when you go still. These are not coincidences. These are not wishful thinking. These are indicators that the formation is already in progress. The harvest you cannot yet see is already growing underground. And the very fact that you are here today, hearing this, is not an accident. Now, I want to speak to who you actually are in this season, because you need to hear it named. You are a spiritual warrior, not because your life is dramatic or because you carry visible weapons, but because you have held your ground in the silence when everything in you wanted to announce, to rush, to prove, to show. You have held the line. That is not a passive act. That is one of the most demanding forms of spiritual strength there is. You are a pioneer. You are going somewhere that your family, your community, perhaps your entire generation has not gone before. There is no map for the exact path you are walking. You are creating it by walking it. And what you build in this season will become the road that others walk behind you, even if they never know your name. You are a cycle breaker. There are patterns, financial patterns, relational patterns, patterns of scarcity and silence for the wrong reasons that end with you. Not because you declared them ended, but because you chose differently, quietly, repeatedly, over a long period of time. What your parents could not hold, you are learning to hold. What your generation has not yet accessed, you are opening the door to. This is not small. This is one of the most profound assignments a person can carry. You are a seer. You perceive things before they are visible. You sense shifts in energy, in relationship, in spiritual atmosphere, before they manifest in the natural world. This sensitivity has probably felt like a burden at different points in your life. It is not a burden. It is the gift that positions you to respond before others even know something is happening. That timing is part of the calling, and you are a builder, not just of a bank account or a business, though those may be part of it. You are building something that will outlast you, a legacy of character, of faithfulness, of provision that flows from who you became in the hidden season, not just what you accumulated in the public one. A tree does not apologize for the years it spent underground. The depth of the root is the reason the height is possible. You have been going deep. The upward movement is coming, and it will be proportional to what has been built beneath the surface. I want to give you something practical to carry with you from this moment forward. Not an exercise that requires anything from your body, just a practice of the mind and spirit. A way of anchoring yourself in this identity every single day, so that when the breakthrough arrives, you are the person who is ready to hold it. When you wake up in the morning, before the noise of the day enters, before you check the phone, before you respond to anything or anyone, take 30 seconds inside the quiet of your own mind and say these words to yourself, or words like them. I am in formation. What is coming is already mine. I do not need to prove it, announce it, or rush it. My silence is protection. My patience is power. I am becoming the person who can hold what God is releasing, and the becoming is the gift. You do not have to say it out loud. You do not have to write it down right now. You just have to let it be true inside you for 30 seconds before the day begins. And if you do that consistently, you will notice something shift, not just in your circumstances, but in how you carry yourself, in the quality of your decisions, in the slowness of your responses when someone tries to pull you into a conversation you should not be in yet. This is the discernment practice. This is the boundary around your breakthrough. Not a wall that keeps people out, a root system that keeps you grounded in who you are, no matter what the environment is doing around you. Now, I want to close this message the way it began, with something God has been saying, and something He wants to seal over your life before you leave this place today. You came here today at a specific moment, not randomly. The very fact that this message found you in this season, on this particular day, is not coincidence. You were brought here because God knows what is coming, and He wanted to make sure you had the instruction before the harvest arrived, not after. That is the kind of Father He is. He does not wait until you are in the middle of the breakthrough to explain it. He prepares you in advance, so I want to speak something over you now. Father, I lift up every chosen one who is hearing this today, the ones who have been in the silence for longer than they planned, the ones who have carried the promise without proof, the ones who have learned, slowly and painfully and faithfully, to hold the miracle without spilling it before it was time. I thank you for this season. I thank you that the silence was not abandonment, it was the classroom. I thank you that the wilderness was not punishment, it was formation. And now, in this moment, I ask that you seal what has been built in the hidden place. Let the discernment be strong. Let the patience be rewarded. Let the identity that was formed in the quiet become the foundation of everything that is about to be built in the visible. For every chosen one who has been faithful in the small, let the door to the large begin to open. For everyone who has learned to say nothing when everything in them wanted to speak, let the right moment finally arrive, and let the words they speak then land with the full weight of everything they held in silence. You are protected. You are positioned. You are becoming something that cannot be undone. And what God is releasing into your life next will not slip through your hands, because you have spent this season learning exactly how to hold it. The seed has gone deep enough. The root is strong enough. The tree is coming, and when it arrives you will know exactly what to do with it.